Okay, hello everybody. It is August 14th, 2025. Thank you for watching the video. Hope you will like and subscribe. Um, oh, by the way, please feel free to leave comments, disagree with me, fact check me. If there's any suggestions you have for how I can make the channel better, would love to hear them. So please feel free to put stuff in the comment section. I do read the comments. I don't respond to many of them. I hit the like button a lot. But I do enjoy reading them, even the ones that are very critical of me, and I will never stop laughing about the guy who called me Timu Alex Jones. Okay, so today on back to the fact checking Trump series. Today's fact check is about a comment he made literally today about inflation. I want to read it to you. He says, quote, "Inflation is down to a perfect number. There's hardly any inflation at all." Okay, that's his statement. Let's take a look at the data and see what it says. Before we do that, though, I want to remind everyone what is the Federal Reserve's inflation range. Their perfect number, their ideal number, is 2% inflation. 2%, not too hot, not too cold. That's right where they like to be. You want a little bit of inflation, because that means you've got some growth, but you don't want too much, because then it means working class and middle class people are basically getting poorer really quickly, because their wages are getting devalued. Anything over 3% is unacceptably high. Anything below 1% is unacceptably low. Generally speaking, the Fed really doesn't like to go below 2%, and they really don't like to be much above 2.5%. But again, they don't really start hitting any alarm bells or anything until you hit those 3 and 1% ranges. So 2% is ideal. So now you've kind of got the range that the Fed is looking at. And that is a range that, by the way, most economists, bankers, financial analysis, they all kind of generally go along with that range too. Of course, there'll be some critics here and there, but either way. So let's start with the most common measure of inflation, the CPI, the Consumer Price Index. The latest number we have out had it at 2.7%. Now, that is certainly a bit on the high side. It's a little higher than the Fed would like. It's nothing to panic about. No alarm bells, no hitting the panic button. It's not a catastrophe or anything like that. Again, it's a little high. Normally that would not be a big deal. Okay, inflation's running a little hot right now, but nothing major. But when you have a president out there saying there's hardly any inflation at all, and you're at 2.7%, when the Fed really doesn't want to be above 2.5 for the sake of consumers, yeah, that's just simply factually inaccurate. Here's the other thing. The inflation rate in April, that was when Liberation Day was. Remember when he started the tariffs? Trump and all the MAGA people have been saying tariffs are not causing inflation. No inflation from tariffs. In April, it was 2.3. So in, let's see here, what would we have here? 3 months. We'd have April. Well, no, 4 months. April, May, June, and July. We've gone up 0.4%. So we're going up about a tenth of a percent per month. That's not a really great trend line. So we were at 2.3 in April before the Liberation Day tariffs kicked in. We're now at 2.7. Again, not good, but not terrible. Now, let's do some other some other inflation metrics. Okay, first we're going to look at is what's called core inflation. This is also put out by the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. This is inflation ex food and energy. The reason that they have this number is that food and energy tend to be very volatile and have big swings up and down all the time. This can make inflation more difficult to track and can also throw the numbers very out of whack because, especially energy prices, but also food, can have such dramatic swings one month to the next. That number, so think this is all the stuff you're spending on, not including food and energy, is at 3.1%. That is obviously north of the Fed's 3% upper threshold. So we are now outside the lines. Again, it's not panic time, but this is objectively bad. Here's some context for you. I was looking at the Fed chart for that rate. Excluding the big COVID surge that we had, or post-COVID surge we had during the Biden administration, this is the highest level it's been since 1995. So our core inflation rate now is higher than it was at any time from about the mid 90s to about 2021. So this is actually a pretty bad number. Again, it's not terrible. I wouldn't freak out, but it's bad. Okay, next one is what's called supercore inflation. Supercore inflation is inflation x energy, food, and housing. The reason for this is trying to get an idea of what's inflation for goods on the shelves other than food. Like you go to a store, not a grocery store, but think a Walmart, a Target, a Home Depot, a Lowe's, a Beals. I guess they don't really. Amazon would be a good example. I don't think they really have Sears anymore. You tell I'm older. The idea is, what kind of price increases are you going to see there? Well, Super Core is running at 3.2%. So it's going even a little bit hotter than the core is, and core is running hotter than CPI, and CPI is already close to the upper threshold. Now, core and super core are outside of the upper threshold. So as we're looking through more and more metrics on inflation, it's getting worse and worse. Now, the Atlanta Fed runs something interesting called sticky inflation. That is a basket of goods that tend to have very slow price changes. This is like real staple products. Again, generally stuff you would buy at stores, and things that tend to have very slow price change, or very slow, or should not slow, should have minimal changes in the rate at which its prices change. It also means that as prices go up, they tend to stay up. This is stuff that is actually very non-volatile. That number is at 3.4%. So again, we are now well north of the Fed 3% threshold. I also checked the chart on that one. Again, just like core, this is running at the highest level, again, excluding the post-COVID surge we had like 22, 23. This is the highest level we've had since the mid-90s. So Atlanta Fed sticky inflation is running hotter now than it did at any time from about 1996 to about 2021. This is a very bad number. Again, we're not at panic, but now we're starting to get close to it. Now, next one we're going to look at is PPI. This is producer inflation. This is what producers are paying for their inputs. 3.3% for PPI, well north of the Fed maximum, and 3.7% for core PPI, way north of the Fed maximum. The month-over-month number, this is horrifying, is 0.9. Okay, well, 0.9, that's a tiny number. Who cares? That's a month-over-month. Multiply that out by 12. That's over 10% inflation. So the PPI number is awful. Now, the reason the PPI, I'm going to say, okay, well, who cares about producer inflation? I'm a consumer. I'm not a producer. What does it matter? The PPI number tells you what's coming down the pipe. Inflation hits the producers first. It hits us as consumers after that. So if PPI is high, that means we have a lot of inflation coming our way. And what this number is saying, the July number, is we have a lot of inflation coming our way, people. The inflation that we're already dealing with, which is already, depending on exactly which version you're looking at, ranges from high but not a problem to this is getting pretty bad. That is all going to get worse. Now, you may have also noticed something else about Donald Trump. He's been attacking Goldman Sachs. Excuse me. I mean, why is he going? I mean, he attacks everybody, but why Goldman Sachs? The reason is Goldman Sachs put out a report just a few days ago in which they were doing a breakdown of who's paying tariffs. Long story short, right now, American corporations are eating about 2/3 of the cost of the tariffs, and slightly less than 2/3. American consumers are paying roughly 1/4 of the cost of the tariffs. And the other 10-12% or so that's left out there is being picked up by foreign entities, usually in the form of things such as rebates or discounts or things like that they're doing for their American customers to offset the tariffs that their American customers are paying. A few months ago, there were similar reports coming out. At that point in time, the American consumer was picking up about 10% of the tariff cost. So now we're already up to around 22-23%. So just a few months, the amount of the tariffs being paid by us, the consumer, has doubled. That is only going to get worse from here. Here's why. If you're a business, let's start with the foreign exporter. Your initial thought when you saw these tariffs was, okay, Trump's talking about deals, 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 reciprocal. Everyone thought we're going to go to 0-0, true free trade. Elon Musk, who was still part of the Trump administration at the time, was saying that. Their thought was, don't, offer a rebate, offer a discount, keep your customer base in line so that you can keep selling them, because this is all going to blow over in a couple of months. That has obviously failed. If you're the American importer, what you're thinking is, I don't want to spike up prices because I don't want to lose market share, because I think this is all going to be over in 2, 3, 4 months, and I don't want to scare away my customers. That's changed now. Nobody believes that anymore. Now both the American importer and the foreign exporter realizes that tariffs are here to stay. So if you're a foreign exporter, you don't really want to keep giving those rebates or discounts because it's not a short-term thing anymore. It's permanent now. So you're going to roll those back. And if you're the American importer, and that's the person who actually pays the tariff, is the American importer, you're saying, all right, customers, you've got to start paying a higher price to offset the cost that we're absorbing with these tariffs. The last month Treasury statement, I think it was something like $28, $29 billion of tariffs paid by American importers. Trump is still saying they're paid by foreign countries. That's a lie. It's not true. Paid by American importers. So what that means is that they are now beginning to pass the costs on to us consumer. Note, I said they are beginning to. This process has not finished. In fact, it's only just now getting started. We're right now at the beginning in the early phases. Well, in the very early phases, we were paying about a tenth of the cost. Now we're paying about a quarter of the cost. As time goes on, our portion that we as consumers will pay is going to get higher and higher and higher and higher, which means more and more and more inflation. Couple that with what you're seeing in the PPI report, which is saying the producers are having their inflation blow through the roof, and oh my God. So, basic point, fact check on Trump saying there's hardly any inflation. We have a perfect number. Absolutely, completely, objectively false by using the numbers that his government provides. Now, the good news on all this is that eventually all of these tariffs will be baked into our prices, and so inflation will slow after it spikes up for a while. Because, again, it's baked in. We've already got it as part of it. So there is light at the end of the tunnel, but guys, we've got a long, dark tunnel to go through before we get there. Month to month, you're going to see variations. 1 month will be better, 1 month will be worse. Don't get too excited or too depressed by any 1 month. But over the next several months, say maybe 8 to 12 months, we're going to be in a pretty high inflationary period. Now, is it going to be horrible, unbelievable, apocalyptic inflation? No, I don't think so. Is it going to put a dent in all of our pocketbooks? Yeah, it is. And it's going to suck and it's going to hurt. I don't think it's going to kill us, but it's going to hurt. But either way, that's my fact check. That's my prediction. Feel free to tell me what I got wrong in the comments section, and I hope you all have a good day.